The choir in my school is so much more than music. It's about community, it's about building self-confidence, building self-esteem. And I love taking our choir out to play. We're singing at the Choral Festival, we've sung at the Jazz Festival, we're singing at the Halloween Festival, we've sung at the Derry Feast. And I love, surprising people. And I love the responses that I get from the audience, because they look at our students and I think they have a sort of, the preconception of what this is going to be like, and then our students come along and just blow it out of the water. But it's so much more than music. It is about communication, and like Margarette, I have so many students in the choir who are non-verbal. So the audition process for my choir is, do you want to be in the choir? You're on. Are you happy to stay? I just talk to their teachers, talk to their staff. Do you think, are they happy enough to stay? And sometimes some students come down for 5 minutes and go, and then we filter them in that way. But there's days I'd be, if you've had a bad day, you've had a busy day, and you mightn't be in the best of form. Well, after choir practice, I just love my life. It's just, the word I would use to describe it is joy. And, that's it in a nutshell. And I think those students teach me far more than I could ever teach them, because I just come away from it and I'm blown away by everything that they do. And we, as I say, we have an age range from primary 1, which is about 6, up to about 17, 18. So.
Can I just ask you, before maybe open up to some questions on the floor, I think the thing that strikes me from our previous conversations and these conversations is that we, as people who are working within that environment, know how important, know how massive the change is, know how critical it is in terms of anything beyond music, but in terms of self-development. Can I just ask you all, maybe, what do you think are the barriers in terms of progressing that? What are your biggest challenges within your own particular groups? How can you envisage things being more impactful or bigger or better, for yourselves and what you're doing? Just
Money.
Yeah, it's terrible to say that. But yeah, for us anyway, it's like when we want to go to compete in a festival or something, it costs us probably on average about 10 times more than the average choir to get there, and to get the accessible accommodation, the accessible transport, and everything that needs to be put in place for us to compete. So it's just getting funding to be able to do that, because although we're core funded by the Arts Council of Northern Ireland and Belfast City Council, we don't get funding to travel or to do any kind of networking or anything, so we have to self-fund that.
It strikes me that a lot of the work that you guys were doing and the previous group were doing, they are functioning in a world which is beyond arts, which is about social, economic, care, society, politics even, and yet I imagine that most of you, or some of you would apply to, say, the Arts Council for funding stuff, But let me just continue on with just the barriers in terms of how you would progress, Margarette.
Well, there's the physical barriers. Is the venue accessible? Is it, has it got a ramp? Have we got facilities? That is a thing that I have to take into consideration. Plus, I think you're right, Bríd, about the audience's preconceptions. Time after time, I've had after a performance, weren't they great? This patronising thing, and that
The wee critters
that does grind my gears a lot. And I just very graciously say thank you, but I want to say, there's a patronisation there that in my opinion, my choir is as good as any other choir, but I'm biased, but that and we such beautiful harmonies, and we make such great music, and of course somebody did turn around and go, that really annoys me.
And I know, sorry. Just in terms of my choir, say if we're going anywhere, I have to rely a lot on the goodness and the kindness and the time of the staff within the school. They give up their free time. If they're giving up their free time on Sunday, they're giving it up next Thursday during the mid-term break to come along. They don't get paid for it.
The parents as well.
And the parents, and some of our parents really need a break.
Yeah.
And that time away from their child is so important. They need it. It could be something as simple as just to sleep or catch up on housework or whatever it is. That time is precious. So I always like to be able to sort it out that we have carers or classroom assistants, whoever it is, to accompany the choir to these events. But it's difficult and it's hard finding them and asking. It's a big ask of people.
Dermot, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, the question you're asking is, really important, I think, because choirs and these sorts of groups bring musical excellence, and they also bring a social community aspect. But for instance, the programme I was just mentioning, Sing for Life, is funded by the Ireland funds for the moment, but that's project funding and then it's gone. And then we look to the Arts Council or to local authorities or to other funders, and it can be a bit piecemeal. And I think, what was brilliant about this programme is that they showcased it. It won a Business Starts Award and then it got further funding, which was great. But it's about it really being brought into policy, I think, that singing for persons' health and well-being in whatever context is valued, is seen as, something really important for musical reasons, but also for all of the other things that it can bring. And I think that can be particularly powerful for those with additional needs, because yes, it's powerful for us all, but actually the difference it can make is huge. And so, what do we need? We need it to be across. It's sort of a communications exercise in terms of people seeing its value. We saw your guys performing just a minute ago. You can see its value immediately, and the more people we can get that in front of and with, the more we have an opportunity to see it, because it's so important that those who are making decisions around policy have had experience of the life-changing ability it has, because if they don't, they're not going to value it. It's not going to go into policy, into funding streams, and into everybody's programs in communities.
I think a lot about the optics, about how people are seeing what you're doing and being able to let them see what you're doing, and because only by seeing it do you really fully understand then, what it's about.
I just think as well it has to go back to education, because I do think, and I've come from mainstream schools myself, and especially I would never go back to mainstream now, but I don't think music is valued in mainstream schools like it was in the past. And I think there needs to be a push, there needs to be a change. The education minister's actually coming to our school after Halloween, so I'll be making sure I have words with them. But I'm very lucky in that in our school, our principal,
Can we all be there, maybe?
our principal has such a high value on music, and I go to him and say, can I have money for this, or can I take the children here? Absolutely, Bríd, no problem. And I'm very, very supported, and I'm very fortunate, but not all principals are like that, not all schools, but the value of music that we do in our school. So I think we need to go back to that, relook at music and education, and make sure that schools see how important it is and how integral it is, and it's the cross-curricular skills that it brings with them as
I don't think there's anybody in this room or
Oh,
beyond that
no,
would disagree with you. I think it's a thing which is endemic across all music education. We are pushed for time, but I just want to open up briefly to the audience if you want to ask any questions to the panel, or even actually, because we didn't have so much time in our previous panel, anybody want to bring up anything or address anything from there?
First of all, thank you so much for an amazing presentation. That was really inspiring. I was telling Brian earlier that our choirs are kind of imagined utopias, right? We want to create the world that we want to live in our choirs. And that's a wonderful power that we have. I'm very struck by hearing you about intersectionality, where I personally would love to create these queer choirs, but we want to make sure that the barriers for queer people with intellectual disabilities, with physical disabilities, are as reduced as possible. And these conversations, we're just not having them enough at the moment. We are in our own little silos, and I'm very grateful that Sing Ireland is trying to do these projects to surface these conversations, and that this festival is creating the opportunity for us to meet and talk about these things. So this isn't really a question. It's really just to say thank you very much for creating this space.
Thank you, Sian. Yeah. Thank you, Sian. Anybody else in the room? Yeah, Sven.
I just saw your choir perform and it was amazing. Awesome. And there's a lot of movements attached to it. Is there a certain theory behind why you attach so much embodied movement to the singing?
If you heard me at the start, I did say, everybody, stand up straight, hands by your sides and look at Bríd. That didn't happen. But music, I think it's just in them, and it's very spontaneous in the movements that they make. We also use McGeown. It's a sign language, and whereas British Sign Language replaces speech, or American Sign Language, or whatever, Irish Sign Language, McGeown encourages speech. And I even find it myself, like I sing myself, I've sung in choirs all my life, and I used to be great for learning words, but now that's gone. But any song that I sing with a choir, we use McGeown. I remember the words. So a lot of the movements probably comes from the fact that we are sighted, and the sign. As you see me when I'm conducting, I am quite dramatic, but it's just to encourage them to copy me. So the signs do bring the movements with them, and then for the children who may not use the McGeown signs, they just move along with you anyway.
The movement is so inseparable from the singing, isn't it? You're going to move
I have a choir full of dancers, and I have a choir full of solo singers as well. They all want a solo, which is so strange coming from mainstream where, they're I don't want to sing. Now everybody in my choir wants a solo.
Any other questions from the audience? If not, if there's any other things you want to say, please do. But I really want to thank you all for your presenting your work. It's so inspiring. It's so full of joy. The kind of most critically important, component of all of these things. So, is there anything you'd like to contribute more? Anything? Final words before the hammer goes down.
Just to say, to encourage people, if you've got something happening, to invite us to your events. Just to, it's about being visible out there and getting the word out. That
I totally agree, Beverley. I mean, I think the work that you're doing. Like, I'm involved in music, and I don't know half the things that are going on. And I think that's I'm involved in music. So people who aren't, I think that's the thing.
It's just changing perceptions as well.
Totally, yeah. More exposure, more invitations, more opportunities to share and perform, I think,
I'd just like to say as well that in our project, we have quite a few people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. And it's almost harder for them to be part of that because they have disabilities, and I think they might need representation in some kind of form, and it'd be great to try and make that happen.
Invisible.
Because
definitely. Listen, thank you so much, and yeah. Thank you.